Hello everyone, welcome to part 2 of the campaign of Doom. Today we are going to be playing the second game in the campaign, which will be between the Mysteries of the Dark and the Spark of the Free People. Now, if you are a patron, you would have seen in the post-game from Game 1 that we actually explained that what we're going to do is introduce a third and fourth group into the game so that we can play different groups off against each other and see how each of them evolves within the campaign. So the game we're going to be playing today is a Scour the Land. This is essentially the same as the Quarters game from the original one, but the difference here is that whichever side holds quarters will get coins for each quarter that they hold. So without further ado, let us show you the two forces that we're going to be playing today, and then we will go and see them after they've deployed. For the Mysteries of the Dark, we have an Alchemist with staff, an Apprentice with a pair of daggers, an assassin with a pair of basic weapons, an ex-soldier with a great weapon, a thief with a dagger, a thief with a basic weapon, a marksperson with a bow and dagger, and a marksperson with crossbow and actually a basic weapon. He's got a sword on his back there. As for the Spark of the Free People, we have an alchemist with basic weapon, an apprentice with basic weapon, 1, 2, 3 pirates, who all have pistol and basic weapon, a novice with buckler and basic weapon, another ex-soldier with 2 basic weapons, and a marksperson with bow and dagger. So as these are both new groups in the campaign, they still need to roll for their concoctions in their first game. So that's what I've got. We'll pop that up on screen. Now for my opponent, they're going to roll the concoctions for their alchemist. And we will pop up on screen what they've chosen just now. Now that is both forces deployed. I won the roll off, so I picked this side over here and went first when in terms of deployment. I've got my thief, marksperson, ex-soldier and alchemist all over on this side. And then as we come over to here, we've got the apprentice, a marksperson hiding behind this building, and then with an assassin and a further thief out on the far end here. Coming across to my opponent's side, we have pirate, apprentice, novice, and pirate coming up this sort of street here. Marksperson ready to run up onto here. Then we have a further pirate and the ex-soldier just inside this area here. And last but not least, the alchemist on the end on the hill. Start of turn 1, I'm going to roll for initiative first and get a 6. And my opponent is also going to get a 6, so let's do that again. They can roll first this time. For a 5, I'll roll a 4, so they'll be going first and I'll get a reaction token. End of turn 1 movement, I have put my marksperson and thief into this building. It's a bit hard to see. We've got my alchemist over here, my ex-soldier over here, my marksperson has moved up over here, and you might just see that we can see my apprentice in the building there. Then we have the assassin and the thief who have moved up over here. As for my opponent, we have their apprentice, pirate, novice, pirate, marksperson has dashed up here, and we have another pirate and ex-soldier down here, and finally their alchemist has moved up onto this rooftop. So for the shooting phase, my opponent had quite a lot of debate with this model here, potentially going after my assassin, and then realising I could react. So after all of that back and forth, this marksperson is going after this marksperson. It is move, and it is greater than 12 inches, but he's not getting cover, so it'll be a 5. My opponent rolls a 1, but they can re-roll that. Into a 6, so it's a hit. Is it a wound? Damage 3, resistance 3. It's a critical. Ooh, good start. We've also worked out that he is in range of an edge. This one here. He is fine though, so he won't fall even though he has taken a wound. So once again, after checking line of sight and various other little factors, my opponent is not going to use any alchemy because it would be a bit of a token gesture at this point to use some. So we come into my part of the shooting phase, and my first bit is going to use the white smoke bomb from here onto this model here, which is a number 4, definitely within range. See if it goes off. Yay! Why is it my first alchemy always fails in these games? For my last bit of shooting, my very injured Marksperson is going to fire his crossbow down here. Now, my opponent doesn't get any cover, but they will be at -2 for moving with a crossbow. So it'll be a 5, which I get the hit, and then it will be damage 4, resistance 3. Ooh, I think that's called a responding kind. So 2 wounds for that guy, and 2 wounds critical on that guy. Ooh. So that's us at the end of turn 1. There is no combat phase because nobody is in range. I also didn't manage to use my reaction token because my assassin would have planned to react. My opponent simply decided not to shoot at him. With that, we are about to say goodbye to turn 1 and go into turn 2. Start of turn 2, there are no determination rolls to make, so it's just straight into initiative. I got a 5, my opponent gets a 4, so exact opposite of turn 1. There we go, I'll go first and they'll get a reaction token. I was just about to, at the start of my movement phase, move my assassin, but my opponent has decided because this model can see him clear as day in the open, they're going to react with their number 2 steel bullet. Now, they've decided to fire before I move. It is more than 18 inches away, half the range, but that's the only penalty at this point, meaning they'll be hitting on a 3. Alchemist starts on a 2. Ooh, that's just not enough. Okay. So, end of turn 2 movement. We have had a bit of a sort of shuffle around here and there. My opponent's Alchemist has stayed still, but their ex-soldier and pirate have moved up here. This guy's just sort of shuffled himself up so he's in range of the other Marksperson. This wounded pirate has ran away back to here, understandable. This other pirate and Alchemist, or Apprentice, sorry, are up and around here. Then my opponent's novice has moved up to here. As for me, my assassin and apprentice have moved up over here. My thief has moved inside here, and my wounded Marksperson has stayed still. Coming over to this side, my ex-soldier has managed to dig himself in here. My Marksperson and thief are over here. And then finally, right at the back over here, my alchemist sort of shuffled himself up a little bit to get there. First bit of shooting from myself. My Marksperson over here can see my opponent's alchemist, but it is hard cover from this, and they have moved. They are within 12 though, so I can hit them on a 6. Ooh, close but no. For my next bit of shooting, this Marksperson here is going to fire all the way over at my opponent's alchemist up here. However, we have worked it out. He is just outside of 18 inches, but hasn't moved, and there's no cover, so it's going to be hitting on a 4. That's a hit. We're looking at damage 4, resistance 3, so let's see what happens. Ooh, that goes up to a 5. So it's a single wound, but more importantly, my opponent has to roll to see if they fall off that structure. On a 1 they will, on a 2+ they are fine. They're okay. For my last bit, we're going to have a strong smoke discharger, number 3 from my apprentice, into my assassin on a 2+. Yay, it goes off this time. So, for the rest of the turn, that assassin cannot be chosen as the target of a shooting attack or a charge into combat by my opponent. However, he can still charge. So my opponent has decided that their Marksperson is going to shoot my Marksperson in their shooting phase, but even after moving them, they are still just over 12 inches away, so they're going to be hitting on a 5 again with the move and range penalty. No, this time they don't. Once again, after a bit of back and forth, my opponent has decided not to use any alchemy at this point because the chance of getting a hit is unfortunately just not good enough to risk using alchemy. However, we do come to the combat phase, and we've worked out that there is 1 charge, and it is my assassin into my opponent's apprentice. So we are going to get that underway with the 6 he can get to there, which is over the barrier, which means I'll be getting my 2 attacks. I'll push up his little marker with him. 2 attacks, hitting on 2s. Yay! What a fantastic failure, 1 in 36. My opponent's going to attack back, 1 attack. Hitting on a 3, they do. Rolling to wound, damage 3, resistance 3. I'll stop chucking dice about. I get a wound back in return, and I do run away. So I will be going... I will go 2 inches... I'll go like so. And then my opponent's going to roll and see what they get. a 3. So we will come back to you once they've decided where they're going to go. My opponent has decided not to move their apprentice. As such, we have now come to the end of the combat phase because there are no other charges, and we have also come to the end of this turn 2. Join us as we will now go into turn 3. Start of turn 3, we will roll for initiative. I'll go first in this case. I get a 6. My opponent gets a 1, so I'll be going first, and they'll get a reaction token. So now we have come to the end of the movement phase for turn 3, with my opponent's ex-soldier and pirate over here, and my thief over here. Their apprentice has moved up over here. My ex-soldier has stayed down here under this bridge, and then my Alchemist and Marksperson have sort of shuffled themselves over here. This Marksperson has stayed very much still. This pirate has disappeared off into the back. This lot here have all stayed still, these 3, but my apprentice has moved up. My opponent's novice has stayed still. And then finally we have my thief who's popped himself out the building, and my marksperson who has also stayed still. For the start of the shooting phase, my marksperson up here is going to shoot at my opponent's alchemist. They're getting no cover, but I have moved. So the only penalty here is a -1. Let's see what I get. I just miss. Next, my marksperson over here is just within 18 and is going to fire into my opponent's alchemist as well. They'll be hitting on a 3. Yay, a 2, just when you need it. Last little bit of my shooting phase. Number 4, the white smoke bomb, and it's going on to the assassin. This time it goes off, so I'm going to make a normal 6-inch move, which is actually going to bring him to around her and go and put him just over there with his wound. First bit of shooting for my opponent is actually going to be this marksperson into this assassin. Let's see what they roll. They're requiring a 3 to hit. They get a hit, looking to wound, see what they get. Ooh, just 1 shy of what they needed. Next, my opponent's pirate is going to fire at my thief. They are more than 4 inches away, so it'll be a 4 to hit going down to a 5 to hit for long range, but re-rolling 1s. No, they get a 2 as well. Next, my opponent's pirate here is just, and I mean just, in range of my apprentice, so they will actually be hitting on a 3 because there's no cover in the way, so it will go from 4 to 3, so let's see what they get. That's a hit, rolling to wound, looking at 4 damage, 4 resistance 3. And it's a critical, so I'll take 2 wounds. Last bit from my opponent, their apprentice is going to use the heavy bullet, number 3, and they're going to target my apprentice here. Now we've worked out they haven't moved. I'm not within short range, not within long range, so it's just going to need a 2 because there is no penalties here. That's a hit. They're looking at damage 6 against resistance 3. So essentially if they roll a 1, fails to wound, anything else, and that is the model removed. Oh, and that's the model removed. Coming out of the shooting phase and into the combat phase, I was about to declare my assassin charging the novice, but my opponent has stated they're going to use their reaction, jump over and charge into me. That gives them 2 weapons, well, no, it gives them 2 attacks. One with the basic weapon, which will hit on a 4. It does. Looking for a damage 3, resistance 3, so looking, see what they roll to wound, and they don't wound. Next, it will be the buckler, which treats itself as being armed with a dagger. So they have 1 attack, which hits, and they're looking at 5 or 6 to get a normal wound, which they don't, they get a 3. I will retaliate. 2 attacks, hitting on 2s. Let's see if I can do it this time. Both hit. Looking at damage 3, resistance 3, so regular wounding. Yay, I get nothing as well. So, my opponent would have charged me, so I'm the one who needs to roll to run away, which I do on a 2. And I'm going to run away like so. Now my opponent's going to roll a 1, so we'll let them shuffle themselves. Yeah, I thought so. And that's it. With that out the way, next my thief is going to charge my opponent's pirate, and he's going to charge so that he can actually, I'm taking the building with me, so that he can position himself like so, just there. However, he does only have 1 attack hitting on a 5. No, my opponent has 1 attack hitting on a 4. Yes, rolling to wound as well. They do wound, so I'm going to have to try and run away on a 2+ for a thief. I do, and with that, I'm going to back away 2 inches like so, and then my opponent's going to roll to see where they go. And they go 3, and I will pop that wound on my thief while they quickly decide where they're going to go. Probably out the way. Yeah, I thought as much, so they're going to go over there. Last of the charges on my side, the thief over here is going to rush himself around and into my opponent's novice. 1 attack hitting on a 5. It doesn't. So my opponent's got 1 attack with the basic weapon, which will hit on a 4. That doesn't. No rerolls. And then they're looking for the buckler, which will hit on a 4 as well, which does. 5 or 6 to get a wound, which doesn't. And on a 3+ they run away. And they do. So they have 2 inches they can run away. While they're working out where they want to go, I'm going to roll. I get 2 inches as well. So my opponent needs to go either this way or this. Actually, no, they can't. They have to go this way because the assassin is blocking the other way. And the 2 inches, I'm actually just going to move up to here like so. And there we go. So my opponent, for their part of the combat phase, has decided that this ex-soldier is going to spin round and charge into this thief like so. They have 2 attacks with their 2 basic weapons. They'll be hitting on 3s. 1 hit, and then they're looking at damage 4, resistance 4, so they're looking at a 3 or more to get that wound. Okay, so they get a regular wound on me. I'll attack back, hitting on a 5, which I don't, running away on a 2, which I do, and I'm going to run away like 2 inches, like so. And then my opponent's going to roll. They get a 1, so they're just going to shuffle themselves around. Next, my opponent's pirate is actually going to charge in like so. So my opponent has 1 attack with their basic weapon. See if they get a hit. They don't. I will attack back with my dagger. I get a hit. Do I get a wound? I get a wound. It's only 1 wound, but it is still a wound. My opponent rolls a d6. They do back away. And then I'm going to roll a 6. So with that, I am actually going to very quickly scoot myself around there. My opponent can still make their 2-inch move anyway. And I'm going to take my wound with me. And after that, that is us done. So now we come to the end of turn 3. Join us as we go into turn 4. Start of turn 4, we still have no determination or even a pluck test to make, so it's just going to be straight into initiative. I got a 6, my opponent gets a 6, we'll try again. My opponent can go first this time. With a 1, I get a 2, so I'll be going first and they'll get a reaction token. About halfway through my movement phase, my assassin was about to move. My opponent has decided to snapshot up here. Is within 12. There'll be no penalties to hit actually, so it'll just be a 3. Which they do, looking for damage, 3 on 3. Ooh, and that's the assassin gone. Here we are at the end of the movement phase. As we can see, my opponent's pirates and apprentice have all shuffled up this side to come up against my thief. My opponent's novice and marksperson are battling out over here. This marksperson reacted, so they can't do anything else. Over here we have the alchemist has ducked out the way. The ex-soldier and my ex-soldier are squaring off over here. The pirates moved up to here. My thief has disappeared off all the way to the back. And then finally over here we have the alchemist and the marksperson over here. Start of my shooting phase. First shot is going to come from my marksperson all the way down to this pirate here. Now we have measured it. He hasn't got any cover to the pirate. And he's also just, and I mean just, within 18 inches. So I'm going to roll the dice next to the pirate and see if I hit. I do hit. Then we're looking at a, damage 4 against resistance 3. No, he fails. Next, this marksperson up here is going to fire into this pirate down here. He has a clear line of sight to him, but it is more than 12 inches away. So we'll see what happens. That's a hit. Please get that again. Damage 3, resistance 3. Oh, again, just 1, not enough. As that is the end of my shooting, my opponent's first shot is the pirate is going to fire into my thief over here. He does hit because he's within 4 inches, and to wound, he gets a single wound because it's damage 4 against resistance 3. Now the reacted Marksperson up here is going to take a shot because they can do that. He just counts as having moved, and that shot is going to go into my Alchemist. So we're looking at a 4 to hit in this case. It's a hit, looking to wound. It's damage 3, resistance 3. That's a 2, so no. For the last little bit here, this Alchemist is going to use the heavy bullet on my thief, who is getting the benefit of cover and the model having moved. However, that does take it down from a 2 to a 4 to hit the thief. And that's enough. It is damage 6 against resistance 3, so we're getting +3 to this dice. And that is him removed from the game. With that, we come to the end of the shooting phase for this turn, but we've realised we haven't been marking the models up for who they've taken off the table. So we do actually need to mark up a 2 for the Apprentice, because he has now taken 2 models out of action. And up here, this Marksperson actually got rid of the Assassin, so he's going to get a number 1 as well. So for the first charge, my ex-soldier is going to charge my opponent's ex-soldier. And then what they're going to do is they're going to lap around, like so, because they can, and attack from behind. So they have 1 attack hitting on a 3, which does. They are damage 6, resistance 4, so we're getting +2 to this dice. Ooh, that is a 7, so that would actually be 2 wounds, but the ex-soldier gets to roll 2 dice, and for each one that's a 6, he can ignore those wounds. So we'll do the first one. No, he takes the first wound, and the second one, he takes both wounds. My opponent, however, now gets to attack back with 2 basic weapons, hitting on 3s. 1 hit, looking at damage 4, resistance 4. And they don't get a wound on a 3+, they'll be backing away. Which they don't, so I'll get a 2, no. My opponent rolls to disappear, no. They might disappear if I get this hit. No, they try again. Yay, and they've made it, so they're going to back away like so, and then I get to roll a 4. So I'm going to use that to just follow on behind them like so. So with that, we actually are at the end of turn 4. My opponent has decided not to charge back over here, and I don't blame them. They are on 2 wounds after all, or 2 wounds taken. So we've come to the end of turn 4. We now go into turn 5, which could be the last turn of the game. Start of turn 5. I do have determination to roll because I have 3 models off the table. I pass. However, I do also have a pluck test to roll because by having 3 models off the table, that leaves 5 on the board. So if I roll a 6, I do. And this game actually ends because that is 1 higher than the number of models I have left on the table, which means my force flees completely. As we can see, that is all of my models removed from the table because I failed that pluck test on that 6. That was quite an unlucky fail there. And as we can also see, my opponent did not lose a single model. Now, it doesn't matter which quarters they're in. They just gain a flat amount of coins, which I believe is 12. I'll double check that, but it should be 12. I gain nothing because I ran away. Well, I think that went about as disastrously as it could for the Mysteries of the Dark there. So we, failed the pluck test, ran away, and then we also counted up. My opponent had not lost a single model. So this game didn't exactly show off some of the rules given how quickly it was over compared to how long it could have gone on for. But if you are interested in getting access to the campaign rules and just the Age of Alchemy rules in general, please head to our Patreon, which is linked in the description below. There you will be able to access the 3 tiers. If you're Scoundrel tier, you will be able to see the post-game video. In fact, all Patreon groups can. If you are Novice tier, you will get access to the rules, the campaign supplements, and everything else you need to play the game, along with extra videos. And if you are Local Hero, you will get access to all of the previous stuff, along with early sneak peeks and access to further parts of the game. Also, in addition, Local Heroes and also some novice groups, depending on how long they've joined for, will be allowed to provide names for our fighters going forward, which means that they can get the name or their name or
any character name they want onto the board to give a little bit more story and a little bit more edge to the games. And all that remains from me is to say thank you very much for watching. We will see you in the next battle report, unless you're a patron, in which case we will see you in the post-game video during the week.